This is the Fredericksburg Neighbors Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Dory Stewart.
Welcome back to another episode of the Fredericksburg Neighbors Podcast, where we share the stories of our favorite local brands. Today, I'm excited to introduce you to Alan Sack, owner of Caring Transitions of Fredericksburg. Alan, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Dory. Good morning. Glad to be here.
Yeah, thank you for being my guest. I'm excited to learn all about your business. So let's start there. Can you please share with our listeners a little bit about your business?
Certainly. Caring Transitions is in business to help seniors downsize. So when it's time to move from their long-term home and perhaps go to assisted living or other types of accommodations, we can help them pack, move, unpack at their new location so they don't have to do that. And then we can go back to the house and sort and organize everything and find a new home for all their possessions they no longer need.
That is very interesting and such a needed service. So I love that so much. I have parents that are going to need that service very soon. So I'm very interested in learning about this. So tell me about your journey and how you got into this.
Well, I got into this business, obviously, the way many people do, is that they were doing it themselves for their family. And at the present time, I was, living here in Virginia, and my parents were in Colorado. And since I was the farthest kid away, I had to go do all the work and then find somebody to, haul it all away. So when I got done with that process and I realized, I have some skill in this area, let me look into this. And I researched Caring Transitions, and we operate as franchises, and I'm the franchise owner of Fredericksburg. And so I researched it and found out that this is what works for me.
Interesting. So tell me, do you, when talking to potential customers, do you find that there's any, myths or misconceptions that you have to dispel?
Well, frequently, probably the most thing is people, say, hey, we've got to sell these things in the house and they're so valuable. How do we get the money out of all these things in the house? Mm-hmm. And typically anymore, the items aren't worth nearly what the family thinks they are. Mm-hmm. So the misconception is that, if you sell the things, it's going to pay for all the move and all the clean out and everything like that. And realistically, it's a lot of work. It takes a lot of man hours to do it. So families can either do it themselves, and which they find they usually don't like to do, or they're out of town and they really can't do it. And so we help to do that, but the cost of labor these days is more than what the furniture will bring sometimes.
Right. I could see that. I could see my parents thinking that some of the stuff in their home is probably worth a lot.
Our dining room table and the china cabinet are so valuable because they were, and they were the things you were not allowed to touch when you were little and so forth. But nobody really wants them anymore because everybody wants to be mobile and have small tables and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
So it's a very common issue.
Yeah. Thank you for clearing that up for us. So I imagine that you're very busy with your business. There's a lot of moving parts. And so when you're not working on your business, tell us, what are you doing for fun?
Well, surprisingly, during COVID and everything, I've developed a habit of doing jigsaw puzzles. So kind of to relieve stress, which is kind of what this business is in a way. It's like, okay, you've got all these things. How do we find a new home for all these things? Which is kind of a jigsaw puzzle. And then I have like to play golf also, and travel. So.
Nice. I do also love jigsaw puzzles. It's something that you kind of have to completely unplug from, and you're completely focused on the puzzle, and it really is great for getting your mind off of other things. So I'm with you on that.
I think that's what I use it for.
Yeah. So tell me, if you were to start over and you could give yourself some advice, or if you could give some advice to if someone, came up to you and said, "Hey, I'm interested in starting my own business,"
Right.
what advice would you give a new entrepreneur?
I would say that the most important thing when you're starting a new business is you have to know before you start, how are you going to market that business?
Mm,
Because everybody has a great idea for how they're going to do it, and they may like doing the job, or maybe you like making jewelry, or you like building houses, or you whatever that thing is, and that's well and good. And everybody says, "Okay, I'm going to be so great at it, people are just going to flock to me." But that's not how it works. You really have to go out and continually market the business and find a way to keep your message in front of people so they know about you when they need the service. So many people,
absolutely.
it's like, "Oh, I wish I would have known about you 2 years ago."
Hmm.
I get that. I probably heard that about 50 times in the last 8 years.
Hmm. Yeah, if they don't know about you, they can't choose you.
That's true. It goes, "I didn't know a business like this existed." And it's like, well,
Yeah.
it does.
Visibility is everything. You've got to keep your business out there so that people know who you are. So great
Yes.
advice. I love that. Awesome. So, when you started your business, or maybe along the way, have you found that have been any, hardships or challenges that you feel like you overcame, and now you're a better business owner for it?
Well, it's in this business of downsizing, there's always the biggest, heaviest, most difficult thing to find a new home for, or get out of the house, or things
Mhm,
like that. And it comes up every time, right? And so
mhm,
eventually I realized, like, okay, the team knows how to do this. Okay. If I
mm,
can't do it myself, at least the team can chip in and we'll get it done. And
mhm.
that's why it's so important to have good team members, and I have a great staff.
Yeah, yeah, that's huge. A staff that you can count on is huge.
Yes.
So, what is something that you wish the listeners knew about Caring Transitions?
um, I wish that they knew more about us, and
Mhm,
the other side of the Caring Transitions business, which
mhm,
the general public can use even if they don't have senior, or they need to downsize themselves, is we have an online auction site called CT Bids, which you can see it up in
mm,
the logo there. And the CT Bids is how we find new owners for all the furniture and all the little knickknacks in the house, that we can auction it off, and people come and pick it up. And it's a very seamless process. And in everyone's house, there's always the things they think are valuable, like the dining room table and the china cabinet. But when that ends up being valuable is the sterling silver in the china cabinet, or just all these little knickknacks that they bought in the 60s that aren't being made anymore, right? So
mhm.
those become valuable just because of scarcity. So, but that's how people can really help the Caring Transition brand, is by participating in the CT Bids auctions.
So that's very cool. I wasn't aware of that. So I love that you shared that. So it's almost like a local, kind of like a local eBay, and you can go
It's
and.
very much a local eBay, and I mean, people know eBay.
Mhm,
Caring Transition owners are all over the country, so if something is shippable, you can shop anywhere in the country for it. Now, you're probably not going to
mm,
buy a bookcase from Seattle and have it shipped here, because that
mhm,
it's not going to work. But
mhm.
we have both a local presence, for people picking up those big items, but anything collectible, shippable, and so forth, you can buy it anywhere.
That's very cool.
So it
I love
really
that.
has a nice complete circle.
Yeah, yeah. That's very cool. I just love what you're doing, and such a great service, and I I just love it so much. So tell me, how long have you been in the Fredericksburg area?
I started the business in Alexandria in
Mhm.
17, and we were doing a little bit of business down at Fredericksburg because there wasn't a Caring Transition owner down here. So
Mm.
they might have been using somebody from Richmond, somebody from Charlottesville, somebody from Alexandria. But then I realized that the Fredericksburg market is really a much better market for this type of service, because all the realtors and the senior communities that we get a lot of referrals from are all, clustered here in Fredericksburg. And so this is very much a referral business from realtors, attorneys, senior living communities. And so my wife and I made the decision to move here and expand the business here, and it's going very well.
Very cool. Very cool. I love that. Well, the Fredericksburg community is lucky to have you.
Great.
So can you share with our listeners how people can connect with you, find out more about you, or visit CT Bids?
Certainly. So we have a website, which is caringtransitionsfredericksburg.com. You can also find it at caringtransitions.com and search the locations. And then for the online auctions, the URL is fredericksburg.ctbids.com. And if we have an auction going currently, it will show up there. If not, it'll say, hey, we're preparing one. Because we typically have about an auction going each week. It's not every week, but we have one ending today, and we'll have another one start tomorrow. And then we started cleaning out the house of one that's going to be a pretty nice one. We have some really good high ticket items. So nice. Fredericksburg.ctbids.com.
Excellent. Alan, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today and sharing Caring Transitions with us.
Great. Thank you so much, Dory. We appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the Fredericksburg Neighbors Podcast. To nominate your favorite local businesses to be featured on the show, go to fxbgneighborspodcast.com. That's fxbgneighborspodcast.com or call 540-534-4618.